going on, YouTube, man? Your boy Run Over Boss is back in the dough. And this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about something. I want to talk about this snitch, street code, everybody telling you got to stay on your 10 toes. You can't tell on this guy what's telling, what's not telling. If you sit down with the police, you're telling. If you're in there eating a bologna sandwich with the police like Young Thug was doing, if he got a bologna sandwich, he told on somebody. You know what I'm saying? But all these tapes been coming out about Young Thug, and I think I've been seeing this. I think this came out a whole minute ago. Why it's popping back up? But I always talk about people being a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? And all this snitching Young Thug was going at Gunna, going at this person. He's a rat. He's a rat. He's a rat. All these street guys on the internet right now, and just telling like you ain't going. A lot of you guys ain't even sitting in a police department or nothing, but you're still telling. Every time you look up, they telling their business. I used to trip out watching these interviews of guys telling their business. AR Al. I watch a lot of these guys on Vlad telling their business. It's just crazy. Now these tapes came out, and every other day I'm seeing Young Thug got a new tape where he should make a snitch album. He got a new tape where he just telling on everybody. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about this guy. He's talking about P from QC. He talking about Lil Baby. He talking on the phone with 21 Savage. He talking about Gunna. He did all this talking about how Gunna snitched, and he got volumes of snitching. He got tape, phone messages, I think what the police be doing, they be looking at these dudes acting like they so gangster, and I think the police be just putting these tapes out. Because I be like, where are these interrogation tapes coming from? Where's all these interrogation tapes with these phone calls? Who's getting a hold of these tapes and putting these tapes out here? But all this gangster shit Young Thug want to talk, man, you ratting, man. I'm looking on the tape, man. You're telling. Like, you sitting up here telling on this guy, eating a bologna sandwich. Like, man, you giving all the information up. These dudes that really be telling and ratting, that's why I say, man, like me, my era, we was raised the wrong way. Like now in life, like when you look at, when people say gangster, and I'm a gangster, and I've been to prison, I'm a gangster, you know what I'm saying? I'll let prison talk that you got, like, no, you're not a gangster, you're just a bad criminal. I hate bad criminals talking about like it's a badge of honor to go to prison because you got caught. I was shooting this guy. I used to pack these pills. I was doing all this. Man, we was taught wrong. The era we grew up in, because the era before us made a lot of stuff look cool. All this stuff that was going on was cool. But now I'm 45 years old, and where I done got to in my life and where I'm at, and then I look back and what we thought was cool, it's so lame. It's so played out. The stuff we was taught gangster and we looked at and thought was gangster, it's not gangster. None of that stuff is gangster, man. Taking care of your family is gangster. Taking care of your children is gangster. Doing a crime without getting caught, I would consider that gangster. I would consider you not doing crime at all. There's too many ways to make money out here. I would consider that gangster. But what we was raised on, and what we was taught and what we was told that was so gangster, you sit around and look at a lot of this stuff and a lot of these guys, and it ain't gangster. A lot of these guys telling. Every time you look up, everybody telling. You got a bunch of dudes I've been to prison 17 years and on the internet telling. Whack 100, dude, telling. Everybody telling. Like it, but they do it. It's how they even writ the rules. Like, it's always an excuse. Oh, if you said no, if you're sitting on the internet talking about somebody's business or unsolved crime, you're telling. The police are on the internet. Like, I don't see how these dudes sit in these chairs and talk about, you know what, a lot of these guys you do gangster stuff trying to impress females. Oh, he's gangster, he crazy. Man, that gangster stuff is so lame, and I'm happy. I got in trouble when I was younger, and I got put on probation at a certain time of my life. And then I had to be on probation, and my probation officer made me go get a job. And then I got a job, and I see how good it was to make some decent money working the job. And ever since then, I've been working. Ever since then, I've been handling my business. You know what I'm saying? Getting to her, trying to make a way. You know what I'm saying? And you ain't just got to work no job. It can be any hustle. You can be an entrepreneur. But how we was raised and what we looked at and we thought was gangster and was smart to do, and we was led astray. We was led the wrong way. And now that I sit back and think about how we are and what we was taught and what we got to unlearn, and me watching all these guys on the internet acting like how gangster they are, but they done told on this guy, and this guy done told on this guy, and all this stuff that we like I said, we was taught the wrong way. And what we grew up watching, like that's not player, it's not gangster. Like taking care of your children is gangster. When you get older and you live your life, and a lot of that stuff you looked at was so player. Like I sit here and watch a guy, like just say for instance, like glorifying jail, like going to jail, thinking that makes you a tough guy. Like, oh man, I did that many years in jail. I do this, I do this. That don't mean nothing. I have always looked at that as you a bad criminal. I have never respect a guy that got caught and went to jail. I'm gonna respect the guy that don't get caught. You know what I'm saying? I want to watch the movie. I want to be the guy in the movie that don't die. You know what I'm saying? I want to be the guy that's smart and make it up out it. I don't want to be the nigga sitting in prison talking about back in them days. And Cameron say, man, them days are over. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want to sit back here and talk about the old time. Nobody care about that. And y'all should be trying to get the information. Like go over the hill, take the arrows, come back with the information, and get a game to the youngsters. But yet and still, the youngsters got to get a game to the old cats. Because what we grew up watching a certain kind of way kind of made us think we had to be a certain kind of way. Made us feel like we had to go do this. We had to go sell this. We had to go to jail and show the stripes. And then I look at that, how idiotic that thought process is. And for me to be 45 and sitting back and be like, we was just taught way the wrong way. And trying to break the cycle. And now I see a lot of these guys like Young Thug and all this gangster. I be watching the Chicago documentaries and I'm like, but them youngsters are really playing Call of Duty. Like they ain't hopping on the internet talking about it afterwards. Like these guys don't have no love for living their life. Like these guys be having kids and be out here living so reckless. Like knowing you might not even come home to your kid, and you ain't even gotta live that way. Why the whole narrative ain't pushed just to get money? You know what I'm saying? Like why do generation after generation and generation after generation watch the same thing and keep following in the same footsteps? I think, you know what I'm saying, you gotta break the curse. You gotta break the generational curse. We gotta get out all this tough guy, all this fake, 'cause that tough guy don't do nothing for nobody. That tough guy just give you a lot of time that it look like a lot of these guys can't do because everybody tell him. Like me watching my son be a good kid, going to school, making good grades, and he ain't looking at making good grades like he a nerd. Like he's in an environment where he can do his thing, make good grades, live his life, and ain't got to worry about that, not trying to impress nobody. Not trying to be a dummy so you can look gangster to a bunch of dummies. Put him in an environment where he can succeed and then look forward to life. 13-year-old talking about college. Like I wasn't raised to even think that way. You know, we gotta break that cycle of how we think a lot of times. You know, how we program. Like the programming a lot. Just sit back and think about the era we grew up in when we was kids coming up and what we saw. And so, and a lot of people want to gravitate to that and mirror that. You know what I'm saying? It don't really make no sense. Like, and the people before us a lot of time didn't know no better. They was put in a situation where they had to do what they had to do. And our mothers and parents had to do what they had to do. But if you don't get the message and then come back around and pass the message to your kid and try to make life better. I wish my kid would try to act like a gangster or do anything gangster and feel like he needs to impress somebody or get some respect. That's when me and him gonna have a problem. But that's when it happens at home. You teach your son he can be a man And you got to break down the definition of a man. And you got to show him what it is to be a man. A lot of us don't have that example to be a man. So sometimes we pay attention to what's going on. Like we grew up a lot of times seeing big cousins, uncles play on women. And a lot of men that grow up in this world we live in, we don't even know how to be a man to a woman. Because we wasn't taught that way. We were taught to be a player, do this, do that, do that. It's a lot of things we didn't get to learn and we didn't get taught. Or we looked at certain, like when we went to school making good grades, you was a nerd. Now my son make good grades. He don't look at it like that. He look at it like he's supposed to make good grades. And that's how it's supposed to be. And that's how it's supposed to be pushed. And I know I was talking about Young Thug, but man, I had to just, it ain't about Young Thug. It ain't about Gunna. It ain't about none of them people in Chicago, Louisiana, Memphis, all that craziness that's going on. And the mind frame on how people thinking, like how precious life is, but people don't put no value on life. Like you'll see a person take somebody's life like it ain't nothing, like it's just so easy. And I have never understood that. I don't care what kind of beef I have with anybody. I would rather box it out. He go home, enjoy his life. I go home and enjoy my life. Like the how people care about their life and willing to throw everything away is idiotic. Like I look at my little cousin. I got my cousin Jermaine. You know, he's in prison for probably the rest of his life. For some only, you know, he didn't even commit. You know, his crime he didn't even commit. And like, if you give a person the opportunity to do something different, do you think they will make a different decision? Yeah, they'll make a different decision. A lot of that. But you gotta look like even in the world it's just the time frame we was raised up in and what we looked at and what, like my son has seen a black president when he was a kid. Like he done seen kids going off to college, kids making it in sports, kids doing this, and there's so many ways to make money now, like legally. And people are still doing crime. And you're an idiot right now if you're still doing crime in this world we live in with all this cell phones, cameras, and everything. But I just wanted to get on her, and I see Young Thug snitching and telling, but I didn't even want to make my video about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, Young Thug I always looked at Young Thug like a little weird guy anyway, so I'm not. And I think you put anybody in there and sit them at that table and apply that pressure. Who's to say who wouldn't crack or not? That's why I don't do crime. The reason I don't do crime is I don't want to do the time. I might well go over and get this money, and if it come a little slow, I'd rather get this money. Cause that fast gonna put you in a fast situation when you're gonna be sitting at that table eating a bologna sandwich like Young Thug. Telling and accusing people of telling when you're telling yourself. If you watch any of them videos and you don't think he telling, you think snitching is all right. And I don't care about snitching, because guess what? I don't do no crime. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to tell on nobody, because I ain't never going to put myself in no position where I have to tell on somebody. And that's the whole idea. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Whatever you go do, be willing to take what go with that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up around bad environments. And that never warped how I thought about what I was doing. I was always trying to get some money. And if you put me in a situation where I got a job and I can provide, that's good enough for me. I've never been too greedy like that. You know what I'm saying? You could be a hustler and not sell drugs. Hustling, drugs ain't the only thing you should be able to sell, because if you can only sell drugs, you're not a real hustler. A hustler can sell anything. And see, that's where people get a lot of this stuff backwards and twisted, and don't really understand the idea of I'm a hustler. Now you was a drug dealer. That's really what that is. Don't get that construed into you thinking you was Bill Gates or something. Bill Gates can probably sell iPhones, iPods, and everything. You know what I'm saying? That's a hustler. If you're a hustler, you can take a t-shirt and do the same thing you did with anything you sold in your life. That's what I consider a hustler. But all these people with this fake gangsterism, this street mentality, like, I be hearing people like, man, if you at a certain age in your life and you still talking about anything street, you need to get your whooped. And everybody need to get off the internet talking about who's snitching and who not snitching. I don't care if you the snitch. I don't do no crime. I ain't gonna look at you no different. I'm gonna look at you with not having no integrity. But if that's how you want to live your life, that's you. If you want to go home to your family, you shouldn't have did crime. But if you end up telling, that's something you gotta live with. You gotta look in that mirror. I look in the mirror and I see a man. I see respect. You look in the mirror, you're gonna see a sucker. And I ain't never gonna tell on nothing, because I ain't never gonna be in a position where I have to do that. And that's what I do. I avoid. And I'd rather make my money the slow way. You know what I'm saying? Because guess what? That money gonna keep coming. That fast money gonna get cut off after a while. And I just wanted to get on her and talk about the mentality and how we was taught and how we was really taught wrong. Like, we was taught by guys that didn't really teach us right. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how I feel about it. And that's what you get. That's what you get: a young thug. You get a gunner. You get all these guys that want to portray this gangster. Oh, I'm a gangster, I'm a gangster, I'm a gangster. All that. We was taught the wrong way. Man, if you was a gangster, if you did anything in your life and your son ended up being a gangster, you failed at life, homie. You failed your son, you know what I'm saying? Whatever you had to do and whatever the sacrifice you had to make should have went over to him where he didn't have to deal with that. Like, the environment, and I didn't grow up in no terrible environment. Where I hung at was a rough environment. But my mama did a hell of a job. And all I got to do is keep compiling on that and do a hell of a job on my own, you know, for my child. So my son won't think that's cool. But tell me how y'all feel about that, man. Like, comment, subscribe. And I know my video was about Young Thug, but I had to vary off because I'm tired of this betrayal we was given. You know what I'm saying? Like, this false sense of being a gangster, what you had to do with what's a real guy and the definition, because they keep changing it every time you see it. And every time I see one of these guys sitting here on one of the interrogation tapes, it's disappointing. You know what I'm saying? Not disappointing to me, though, because I could care less. But like, comment, subscribe on my video, man. I know this was a long one, but I had a lot to speak about. I'm out.